United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as we observe a moment of silence for Ray Masuko. Ray was a dedicated town resident who was active in the town, the village, and the community. Ray served as both town and village legal counsel, served on the library board, and is a member of the Rockingham BCA for many years. He was chairman of the board of the Rockingham Health Center and one of the founders of the Roots on the River, to name a few. Please bow your head at this time as we observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Please sit. As moderator, I would ask your indulgence and patience as we work our way through tonight's meeting. I have no doubt that you will kindly and gently call any errors to my attention. This would be a real good time to please shut off your cell phone and pagers if you have not done so. The meeting will be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order, except as modified by state statute. You can't change state law, but you can choose to modify Robert's rules with a 2/3 majority vote. General Roberts had pages of rules for decorum during debate. I hope that it will not be necessary to remind you to conduct yourself in a civil and polite manner. As Mike Hardy, our long-serving town moderator, always said, we arrived as neighbors and friends, and we will leave as such. Please stand, if possible, and state your name when recognized. You will have to forgive me if I do not call on everyone by name, but I'll do my best. We have a runner with a microphone, so please wait until they reach you before you begin your speech. Please address all comments to me as the moderator, and I will either answer or redirect them to somebody who can respond. Only registered voters may speak unless by the leave of the assembly, which requires 2/3 vote if there is an objection. Unless there is an objection, I will assume there is a leave of the assembly for town officials who may not be resident voters to address the assembly for the purpose of explanation during this meeting. Those who are eligible to vote were given a voter card. The purpose of those is to allow us to identify you as a voter who has passed through the checklist. On the division, please hold your card up so that everyone is comfortable that only voters are voting. On a paper ballot, the clerk will mark your card as you pass through the line so that we can be assured that folks only vote once. Those articles requiring an Australian ballot vote tomorrow will be taken up for discussion only, and no other action other than discussion can take place on them at this meeting. I will strive to make any ruling that I'm called upon in an impartial and correctly as I can. Any ruling of the moderator can be challenged immediately after the ruling. I will explain my ruling, and if you are not satisfied, all it takes is a request to challenge the ruling and to put it to a vote of the assembly. Debate on the motion to appeal the ruling of the chair is generally in order. It is my job to assist you in accomplishing the business of this meeting. Please raise your hand and ask questions. If you think that something that is happening is wrong, or you don't understand what is happening, or if you want to do something but don't know how to proceed. You must be recognized by the moderator to address the assembly. I will try to recognize all of those who wish to speak in an orderly fashion, getting around to all those who wish to speak, but haven't yet had the opportunity. Before returning to those who have already spoken, a person may only speak twice on an issue and is limited to 10 minutes total. I hope that you will be brief and not feel that you need to use up all of your time or replow the ground that you or someone else has already gone over. A motion must be made, seconded, and restated by the moderator before debate on the motion begins. In most instances, only 2 amendments will be allowed on the floor at any one time. That is 1 amendment to the main motion and 1 amendment to the amendment where appropriate. It requires a motion, a second, and 2/3 vote to cut off debate and call the question. You have to be recognized to make that motion. You just can't shout it out because you're tired of the debate. The motion to close debate is non-debatable. By state statute, once voters have acted on a question and taken up the next item of business, they cannot reconsider the action at this meeting. Voting will be done by voice vote unless the chair is in doubt, in which case there will be a division. Also, any voter may call for a division as long as we have not started the next item of business. Any voter may also move to vote by paper ballot during the debate or before we have moved on to the next order of business, in which case the vote will be by ballot. If the call for a ballot is sustained by at least 6 other members. Action under other business cannot require expenditures of funds, nor can it be binding upon the town. Any action under other business is advisory only. So I'd like to introduce some of the people sitting up front here. First, we have Kathleen Nehawk, our town clerk, Alyssa Harlow, our finance director, Scott Pickham, our town manager, and then going across the front are our board members, Elijah Zimmer, Bonnie Northrup, Peter Golick, chair, Rick Cowan, and Sue Hammond, vice chair. Prior to the reading of tonight's warning, I would like to read the dedication of this year's annual report. The Rockingham Town Report this year is dedicated to Tom and Sally McPhee. For many years, they have been active in the town, village, and our community. Tom served on the BFUHS board for 10 years, 5 as chairman. His tenure on the town select board was for 12 years, 10 years as chairman, and 6 years as the Bellows Falls Village president. Tom was actively involved in several community organizations, including the Bellows Falls High School Alumni Association, Rotary Club. He's an incorporator of the Greater Rockingham Area Service, to mention a few. Tom was Alumni Association Grand Marshal for the 1993 parade. In the fall, Tom could be found at the BFUHS football games, working on the chain gang along the sidelines, watched over by Sally, who was also at the game. Sally has served as a justice of the peace for 16 years as of this writing, including attending Board of Abatement and Board of Adjustment meetings, and is still going strong. She can be seen at the polls each year. Sally is is active in many community organizations, including 20 years in the Bellows Falls Women Club, 30 years in the Bellows Falls Masonic Temple Board of Directors, and is a member of Eastern Star. Tom and Sally also dedicated 10 years to the Rockingham swim team, Tom as a referee and Sally keeping score. They were the co-recipient of the 2003 Springfield Savings and Loan Community People's Award. Thank you both. And at this point, I'll recognize Peter with a.
Yeah, in response to that, we got a letter from Tom and Sally. I'd like to read that. Sue and I showed up at their house on the 7th of February to deliver their town report and asked them to look inside the cover. And I'll read it as it says. Sally and I were completely taken by surprise when you and Susan stopped by on 2/7/23 to hand us the annual town report and told us to open to the dedication page. Please thank the board for selecting us, and please read or have the moderator, Paul, read the following statement at the annual meeting. The statement is as follows. Unfortunately, we are not able to join you at the annual business meeting this evening. I believe they're in Florida. We are honored beyond words to have this year's Rockingham annual report dedicated to us. Over the years, we got involved because we saw a need and were encouraged to take up the challenge, which at times we did with reluctance. The road wasn't always the smoothest, but the experience was unbelievable, and we have had an incredible journey. Looking back, we were living the Rotary International motto of service is above self and didn't even know it. God bless this town and all that reside in it. And it's signed by Tom and Sally. Thank you.
At this time, I would also like to highlight that tonight's meeting has a Zoom link, but also highlight that voting by Zoom is not permitted. The warning for tonight and tomorrow has an introductory paragraph which reads as follows. The legal voters of the town of Rockingham and the town of Rockingham School District are hereby notified and warned to meet at the Town Hall Lower Theater, Bellows Falls Opera House, 7th Square, in said town on Monday, March 6, 2023 at 7 p.m. to act upon all articles for expenditure of public funds. Then to adjourn March 7th, 2023 to the Masonic Temple, 61 Westminster Street in said town at 8 a.m. to vote by Australian ballot on Article 1. Monday's meeting may also be seen via Zoom at 929-205-6099, meeting ID 696-830-477. Please note, voting by Zoom is not permitted. We will now move on to the articles. Article 1, to elect town officials and school district officers as required by law. This is an Australian ballot item. And therefore, you will be voting on that tomorrow at the Masonic Temple. Article 2, to receive and act upon the reports of the town officers for the past year. Elijah.
Article 2 is to receive and act upon the reports of the town officers for the past year.
So we have a motion has been made and seconded to receive and act upon the reports of the town officers for the past year. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of receiving and acting upon the reports of the town officers for the past year would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And Article 2 is passed. Moving on to Article 3. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham authorize the select board and treasurer to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of tax collection or payments of money due the town from the state of Vermont for highway or other purposes, or payment to the town from federal funds. Sue?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham authorize the select board and treasurer to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of tax collection or payment of money due the town from state of Vermont for highway or other purposes, or payment to the town from federal funds.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion is made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham authorize the select board and treasurer to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of tax collection or payment of money due the town from the state of Vermont for highway or other purposes or payments to the town from federal funds. Is there any discussion? This is really kind of a housekeeping article that allows both select board and the treasurer to borrow money if they so need to. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 3 is passed. Moving on to Article 4. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham authorize the select board to seek out and or accept funds available from non-property tax revenue sources and to spend those funds in appropriate ways after required public input? Rick?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham authorize the select board to seek out and or accept funds available from non-property tax revenue sources and to spend those funds in appropriate ways after required public input.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham authorize the select board to seek out and or accept funds available from non-property tax revenue sources and to spend those funds in appropriate ways as required by after required public input. Is there any discussion? And again, I think this is kind of a housekeeping motion that allows the select board to go out and seek other funds and to spend those funds after public input. Yes.
Laurel Green, I'm a resident. Laurel Green, I'm a resident here in Bellows Falls. And my question is this grant funds? Are there other kinds of funds? Give me an idea. I don't.
Yeah, there's grant funds and all kinds of different funds out there. Fox is the master of some grant availability. Just phone call him. What's out there, what we're applied for, what we're hoping to get, what we're not going to get, and what's required, and there's
Any other questions or comments? Seeing no questions or other questions or comments, the motion has been made by the voters of the town of Rockingham to authorize the select board to seek out and or accept funds available from non-property tax revenue sources and to spend those funds in an appropriate way after required public input. All those in favor would say aye. Aye. Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 4 is passed. We move to Article 5. Article 5, shall the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $6,314,959 to pay the indebtedness of the town, repair and maintain highways, and pay all other general and regular expenses of the town beginning July 1, 2023 through June 30th of 2024 with $4,883,261 to be raised by taxes. Peter.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $6,314,959 to pay the indebtedness of the town, repair and maintain highways, and pay all other general and regular expenses of the town July 1st, 2023 through June 30, 2024, with $4,883,261 to be raised.
Is there a second?
Mr. Moderator, we have a second.
Just a second. And I'll come right back to you. So the motion has been made that the voters of the town of Rocking and been seconded, that the voters of the town of Rocking repair and maintain highways and pay all other general and regular expenses of the town beginning July 1 of 2023 through June 30th of 2024 with $4,883,261.
Just to, this article is just for general. Projects, reserve funds, etc. Articles 6 to 11 are articles that are calling for a vote, are not included in this total. That's why I approve of it. Last year, all these articles but the money was in it, and then voting again on the regular issues. But anyway, the voted on. Let's say I already said that. If this article passes, Article 5, the tax rate, estimated tax rate is $1.04. Articles 6 to 11, if passed, will add 12 more cents to arrive at a final estimated tax of $1.16, 4% increase over last year, which was $1.12. This increase results on an $80 per year increase in taxes, which is also valued at $200,000. Items of note affecting the budget. We now have a full-time HR person. Appear to be. Assistant will be hired. We've been working. Why not? I could put the microwave and talk better without the mic, but that's another story.
People are saying they can't hear you. People out there that the house can pick it up.
All right. We also have a vacancy in zoning and health. Gary Fox has been temporarily appointed zoning person, and Sean McGinnis is a deputy health officer. Other items will be the health insurance rates this year went up 11%. We did change the program a little bit on the insurance rates. We offered the employees a better plan, more money, but on the other hand, we take money on the other side because we'll take incentive will only be getting part of the money, getting 50%. Swearing. Okay, let me try it without this. Page 24, for your account, shows reserve accounts for fire equipment at 50,000, Depot Street Bridge at 50,000. Page 30 will show you that the Brockway Mills Road debt has been retired. Currently in the process of union negotiations. Now, page 15, if you turn that page on recycling revenue proposed FY 24 budget, shows a printing area error. Soda cans, white goods and brown goods, CD lines should be moved down one notch because they just don't match up. And they're in the wrong, so.
Page 15.
Page 20. Recycling expenses. Municipal solid waste line has been included in the recycling totals because previously it was showed separately on a separate line item. And it kind of, if you looked at the recycling expenses, you thought we were doing a wonderful job coming out in a break-even proposition. But then when you add the transport costs of about $50,000 to it, it kind of threw it off. So to get the true cost of the recycling operation, we added it in to the recycling cost this year. Page 28, highway expenses. You'll see an unusually large item for paving with the Brockway Mills project being retired. There's $224,000 that we were able to not have to spend for the debt. So hopefully we are going to be using that in the paving, and hopefully we will be eligible for highway aid from the state and paving. Also, in regards to paving, the paving will be done in Bells Falls over the next 2 years. It'll be going from Oak Street this year, from Oak Street south, and next year Oak Street to North Town. Old Terrace area will need new subgrade base gravel, as test books have shown that the core material. Sidewalk will be addressed, Saxon River and BF as money and time permits. Page 33, the library budget is shown for your information, but we voted on in Article 7. We have applied $250,000 of unassigned fund balance to the budget this year, which leaves the recommended amounts of 15 to 20% of budget for accounting guidelines. We were successful in collecting delinquent taxes, and we'd like to thank the Finance Department for their diligence on that. And we had our tax sale this year. The town purchased one property on Old Terrace. It's the house that's boarded up, if you've been up that way. At one point, there was a developer that was going to take all three properties and demolish them all and build new buildings there. Well, something happened that isn't proceeding. I don't know if Gary is still here, but I think there's 1 year left on that motion that they can go ahead and complete that project if that's still going. 4 others were sold. I just remind everybody that even though we bought the properties this year, the people have a year to redeem the taxes on it. So, we'll take any questions.
Any other questions or comments on Article 5? Yes. Just a second, ma'am.
It's blocked off, yeah. It's like across the highway.
Okay, I'm sure this is worth it. My name is Susan Brace. I live in Bartonsville, and it was just a question on page 22, general fund expenses. There's a line for transfers out, $75,000. Transfers out to where? What does that mean?
I'm gonna refer that to either the manager or finance. I think that was to do with the railroad station. that we had gotten a grant, so we received it in one area and brought it back out to the grant, to the railroad station area. If I'm correct, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. That's what it is, railroad
So
station.
it's can you explain that a little?
Yeah, we voted on that last year at town meeting. It was voted 75,000. So the money goes into the budget and it's transferred over to the railroad account.
Okay,
So the
all right,
money,
it would have been clearer if it said transfer out to railroad account. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, I gotta have. Cass, so why don't we bring the mic over there since we're kind of on that side of the room and then I'll come back to this side.
Paul, I think I can speak up enough without the mic pass, just to save it. So just jumping around, Peter, I appreciate you have about 6 different pages on 5 different articles. Jamie Barrett, by the way, President. So for our indebtedness in the paving projects coming to Bellows Falls this year, are we coinciding with Green Mountain Power and any other utilities to get anything corrected prior to digging this all up and paving it, so we're not, following the cart with the horse?
yeah, as far as I know, the only area that's gonna be have any real construction on it is the Old Terrace area, which is the avenues A and B, Front Street, which is, if you've ever been up there, they are in tough shape and like they dug test pits and found the sub-base gravel was poor quality, so they're gonna be doing some work over there. The rest of it is probably just some milling and overlay pavement.
And just the one last thing, recycle center.
Yeah.
I saw different numbers, and what's the actual cost to the ratepayers to operate that? Because I see that, continually the employee benefits or payroll is going up, and I see that we're shipping stuff brown goods. What's the actual cost?
Peter, would you like to take that question again?
Yeah, the actual cost is what's shown in the budget, about 311,000 right now. Currently, I think we're somewhere around last budget printout we got, which would have been for February, but somewhere in the vicinity. The expenses are running probably around about 200,000 right now, so it leaves a little bit of extra funds for the next 3 or 4 months to complete that budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Right here. Yes. Yeah, stand, please.
There we go.
Wayne Blanchard,
Wayne, just a second till you get the mic, please.
are we about to vote on this right now?
Well,
I-
as soon as discussion is done, that is correct.
I don't understand how it's legal. If we voted in the last town meeting, hold this by Australian ballot, how is it legal for us to vote here tonight?
I think a lot of that was based around COVID-19 is why.
But we held a vote. I mean, if you look at the minutes that we approved in Article 2, there's a vote there with a considerable, I mean, it wasn't close. I mean, it was
Okay.
overwhelmingly that we wanted to do this by
Let
Australian
me
ballot.
explain this
for
to you a
this year.
little bit, the legality of this whole thing. We cannot vote and use the Australian ballot in the same year. So what we did last year, you voted the Australian ballot and also voted to use the Australian ballot. So it was technically illegal. The village did the same thing with their budget. They ended up being the same way. They voted to vote Australian ballot and then they voted it the same way. You cannot do both in the same year. They have to be a year separate, which if you go into, you look at your warning article, there's an article this year to ask that question, would we want to vote Australian ballot for 2024? And this is all run through the Secretary of State and anybody else who can find it, get it out. I think Steve Proctor was the one that actually brought up the error of the ways and that started the whole discussion. So technically, that's why we're voting by at town meeting by floor vote. And that voting will be by floor vote tonight whether you vote Australian ballot in the future or not. Clear as mud?
Clear as mud, yeah, seems fishy to me.
Any other discussion? Yeah. We'll keep her waiting.
Ever.
Don't hit him with it.
Deborah Wright, that wouldn't be good. Deborah Wright, and we are using the microphone because Fact has to pick it up and those people over there have to hear us too, so on Fact. It's 3 questions. One of them is on page 14. It's about taxes, which are now predicted to go down $400,000. And according to what you've got budgeted, is $400,000 less than this current fiscal year. So that's one question. Would you like to answer each one in turn?
Yes.
Okay.
So looking at page 14, it looks like under revenues, taxes, property tax revenue. Deb just pointed out that taxes are gonna go down 400,000. We have an answer for it.
Right, yeah. The reason that is there, because if you look at the amount that be raised by taxes is less this year than was before. And that is because the articles that are being voted separately are gonna bring
Reduce the
it back
vote.
up. So
Okay, reduce that
that's
number.
why. Whatever you vote tonight will be added on.
Want me to add to that? Yeah,
Yeah.
so that number will change in the actual budget after the voting is done and I have the tally.
I see.
To be raised by taxes will be whatever the rest of the vote is.
Okay, all right, so then it will raise based on that. Great. Okay, second question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, page 20. It has to do with the recycling expenses, which, according to what you've got for revenue and what we've got for expenses are off by like $70,000, difference wise, what you budgeted to expend and what you budgeted to receive. But my concern, had to do with how much money do we spend on the new shed to handle the swill and, recycle tires? The
Oh, for
new
the
building, the
shed.
shed down there,
Well,
yeah.
that's not a
Okay,
problem.
so Peter, are you going to
Yeah.
take that?
I believe it was somewhere in the vicinity of 17,000 for that shed.
Yeah.
We had, we contacted 15 individual contractors. Nobody would reply to us. I finally dug up 2 of them. One was at $33,000 and the other one was at $40,000. And I happened to be going out Saxon River and Fred Bullock's house, and there was a contractor in there working on his house. And I pulled in and asked him if he might be interested, and by golly, lo and behold, he got the job.
Okay,
Otherwise, we'd we'd been.
why do we need to replace it?
Because if you ever looked at that shed that was there before going in, it was leaning to the left, and the only thing holding it up was a little shed on the end, and that wasn't wire behind it, so it would all collapse to the left.
Thank you for answering that question, but again, the revenues don't catch up with the expenses.
That's because you're gonna see that $54,000 or $55,000 line was a separate line item before, so if you take that off of those totals that you see there,
Almost.
you see you're gonna be coming closer. Our intent is the recycling is to break even,
Got it, okay,
so
thank you,
that's why that's there.
thank you. Last one is on page 23. Has to do with recreation. Sorry, just gonna turn my page.
Yep.
Page 23. Yep. Recreation, looking at, we spent a lot of money over the last several years, probably some of us remember, those dollars we spent on the ski tow and all that. We have $1,000 in wages for someone to handle the ski tow, but we have not, according to this, we haven't made any money with passes to even compensate having someone watch that ski tow, plus the thousands of dollars you put in the rope replaced several years. So I'd like someone to try and make me understand why the rec is at $157,000 for 2024, and we don't seem to promote our services or recreation very well. Thank you.
Part of the problem with the expenses on the ski tow was the rope. We had to replace rope, I think, twice.
Yep.
So that being the case, I think it ran about $4,000, $5,000, somewhere like that. So that was the point there. The snow, as you can see this year, has been slim or none. It's kind of hard to ski on grass, so that's why you don't get much of a turnout for the ski. The pool and area seems to take care of itself, but as someone once told me, if you don't have recreation, available, you're not gonna get anything. So it probably is gonna be a losing proposition. It's never gonna break even as far as, long as I've been on this board. I've never seen it break even, but we're trying.
Any other questions or comments on Article 5? Seeing no other questions or comments, the motion has been made that the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $6,314,959 to pay the indebtedness of the town, repair and maintain highways, and pay all other general and regular expenses of the town beginning July 1, 2023 through June 30th of 2024 with $4,883,261 to be raised by taxes. All those in favor would say aye. Aye. Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 5 has passed. We'll now move on to Article 6. Article 6. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $93,978 to be allocated to the following social service agencies as indicated. And I can read the list if you'd like, or.
That's okay.
Next year
you can read it.
I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $93,978 to be allocated to the following social service agencies. And let me read them. I'm done.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $93,978 to be allocated to the following social service agencies as indicated. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing no discussion, all those in favor would say aye. Aye. Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 6 is passed. Moving on to Article 7. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $435,249 in operating expenses for the support of the Rockingham Free Public Library with $379,250 to be raised by taxes. Peter.
Mr. Moderator, I move the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $435,249 in operating expenses for the support of the Rockingham Free Public Library, $379,250 to be raised by taxes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing no discussion. Article 7 reads, the motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $435,249 in operating expenses for support of the Rockingham Free Public Library, $379,250 to be raised by taxes. All those in favor of the motion would say aye. Aye. Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 7 has passed. Moving on to Article 8. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $103,000 to fund the town portion of the Rockingham Meeting House structural repair for the purpose of preservation by matching existing grant funding opportunities. Rick?
Mr. Moderator, I move that we, the town of Rockingham, vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $103,000 to fund the town portion of the Rockingham Meeting House structural repairs for the purposes of preservation by matching existing grant funding opportunities.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $103,000 to fund the town's portion of the Rockingham Meeting House structural repair for the purpose of preservation by matching existing grant funding opportunities. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, just want people to know that we have obtained a grant of $360,000, a congressional spending grant for the repair of this building. So the money you're trying to raise tonight and some ARPA funds will be applied. And I think the total ends up being somewhere around $720,000 for the repair of that building. And if you want to see material out in the hallway, and if you've been in the library, there's material there, or if you attended the meeting where the leaders of Papazian presented the report that went on for about an hour of the condition of that building, you'll understand why we're trying to get this set aside.
Any other comments or discussion? Seeing none. The motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $103,000 to fund the town's portion of the Rockingham Meeting House structural repairs for the purpose of preservation by matching existing grant funding opportunities. All those in favor of the motion would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 8 has passed. Moving on to Article 9. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,000 to fund the Meeting House Capital Reserve Fund with $22,000 to be raised by taxes? Elijah.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,000 to fund the Meeting House Capital Reserve Fund with $22,000 to be raised by taxes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,000 to fund the Meeting House Capital Reserve Fund with $22,000 to be raised by taxes. Is there any discussion?
Just one question, Paul.
Sure.
So it's to raise 22,000. I'm just wondering, what is the capital reserve fund currently?
Just a second, we'll have that answer for you.
It's 22,000, I believe, in there. We put in about that amount for the last couple of years.
How much is it?
And we use that every year.
Was on
for-
January 3rd.
Any repairs, along with any grants that we've gotten to go with it, Jamie.
Actually, I think the answer to that question, according to Gary Fox, is there is a 109,85. 109,008.
109,585 on January 3rd. You're pretty close to that now.
Stand corrected.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
As we move forward, I'd just like to ask Peter, Again, it's $1.04 per hundred for Article 5 pass, which did.
Correct.
All the other articles together add how much more?
12 cents.
12 cents. Okay.
Right.
That was, I just want to make sure I took it down.
I give them to the individual if you want, I have them.
Okay, so it'll be $1.16 per hundred
That is
if
correct.
all passes. Thank you.
If everything passes.
Any other questions or comments? So Article 9, the motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,000 to fund the Meeting House Capital Reserve Fund with $22,000 to be raised by taxes. All those in favor of the motion would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And Article 9 is passed. Article 10. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 to fund the maintenance of the BF Riverfront Park with $1,000 to be raised by taxes? Bonnie.
I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 to help fund the maintenance of the Bellows Falls Historical Society's Riverfront Park with $1,000 to be raised by taxes.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the motion has been made, and seconded, that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 to fund the maintenance of the BF Riverfront Park with $1,000 to be raised by taxes. Is there any discussion? Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 10 has passed. Moving on to Article 11. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate $6,000 to fund a contract with Wyndham County Sheriff for the purpose of providing public safety services in the town of Rockingham with $6,000 to be raised by taxes? Sue.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate $6,000 to fund a contract with the Wyndham County Sheriff for the purpose of providing public safety services to the town in the town of Rockingham with $6,000 to be raised by taxes.
So the motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
And Peter seconded it. Motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate $6,000 to fund the contract of the Wyndham County Sheriffs for the purpose of providing public safety services in the town of Rockingham with $6,000 to be raised by taxes. Are there any questions or comments? So, yes, I'm going to start on that side and stay over on that side.
My name is Michel Liberté. I have two questions. Is the, are the police going to patrol only in Rockingham or in Bellows Falls, Rockingham, Saxon's River, etc.?
Somebody on the board can answer that?
Yeah, I'll take that one. We debated this at several board meetings because there's a plea that came from Village of Martinsville. That wanted police protection or coverage up there because of drug issues, speeding, etc. We had the sheriff in. I think there's one here tonight. We can answer any other questions and tell you how much it's gonna get you for patrol. So the intention was that they were all going to provide services only to Martinsville.
No, rural Rockingham.
Rural Rockingham.
So now,
not
the
Spartanburg.
the intention was that, extended it out being to the whole of rural Rockingham. So it's everything but the Bells Falls Village, as far as I understand.
For 2 hours a month, is that what it is?
So I guess the second question from you is, how many hours per week?
It really is up to, we have to then negotiate with the sheriff's department of how we would use that $6,000. It could be, we could do it on a weekly basis. We could decide we want to have, one day a week, one day a month, or we could do it just a intensive few periods of time throughout the year. It's something we haven't even started that negotiations with.
Well, how much is it per hour?
It's $60-something per, $62 per hour.
So you're talking less than 100 hours. of
Correct.
coverage. Okay, thank you.
Right behind you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Steve Chipman. I live in Lower Bartonsville. A group of residents came to the select board last summer wanting their help for a situation in Lower Bartonsville, which we later learned applies to many other areas of rural Rockingham, including Parker Hill, Rockway's Mills, other outlying areas that don't currently have dedicated policing services for speeding, drugs. Essentially, our plea was, who do we call? Who do we call to get a response from the police department? And obviously, we don't have access to the Bellows Falls Police Department. And we found out that there's contractual services available from the sheriff's office, and the state police came and told us, and I totally understand where they're coming from. We don't have the manpower to take care of anything other than shootings, assaults, deaths, and things of that nature. So we left the meetings, many of them, understanding that there is no one to call. There is no one to call. And so our request for the $6,000 was a seed. We're trying to plant a seed to get a presence in our outlying areas. Because we have none. We have none currently. And we hope that you all support that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Jim McCall, Bellows Falls. I think I've got a question and then a comment. I think the question is, was this voted on by the select board because of the petition? Or was it just comments that came in and the select board decided that they would propose coverage for rural Rockingham?
Okay, Peter, would you?
You hit it right on the head. Okay. They came and asked, and we decided we'd honor their request, and we put it in as a placeholder, the $6,000, and see what we could come up with.
Okay. Well, I think everybody knows where this is going. I live in the village of Bellows Falls, and since I've been back here, we had two opportunities to merge the town and the village. But rural Rockingham resoundingly voted that down because they didn't want to pay for the policing. So the village of Bellows Falls taxpayers, who by the way are the same taxpayers in the town of Rockingham, pay 100% of the cost of our policing. I believe that the village of Saxons River has some limited coverage, and I believe the village of Saxons River pays for that coverage. Now we're being asked, the select board is asking the taxpayers in Bellows Falls that are paying over $1 million for police services, and the Saxons River taxpayers who are paying whatever they're paying, to pay our share of rural Rockingham. So the obvious question is, why aren't they paying for it? If they want the coverage, bill them for the coverage. Don't burden the Bellows Falls taxpayers or the taxpayers in Saxon River for this request. Because let's face it, as a couple of the individuals have mentioned, 6,000 isn't much police coverage. And it can only grow. And so I think out of fairness, this article should be defeated. I think the other question that I would ask the select board for future reference is that if you feel this way about rural Rockingham, why don't you propose to provide police services for the town of Rockingham? I think it's only appropriate and fair. As a Bellows Falls resident, I'd be happy to have you take that over. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir. Or ma'am, I can't. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Susan Brace, again, also from Lower Bartonville. But I notice there are many things in this budget that cover other areas that I don't live in. I rarely use the sidewalks in Saxon's River, but I see $10,000 in our highway fund expense for that. And there are other common expenditures that don't directly affect the people that live in rural Rockingham. But we do all share this town. And I would ask the people that I share the town with to support the folks in the rural parts of Rockingham. And the merger vote, that was years ago. I don't even remember whether it was during the time that I've been here for 15 years. I think there was one vote in that period. But that's not on the table right now, unless somebody wants to try it again. But I would say there are many things that I don't have children in the schools anymore, but I support the school budget. There are a lot of things like that that don't specifically affect each one of us, and yet they are part of our the common good that we need to share the expenses for. And that's why we should vote in favor of this proposition. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'm going to stay on that side for right now, but then. Cass? Yes, Charlie.
I got the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am.
Behind your cameraman. Hi, everybody. My name is Wendy Levy. I live in Bellows Falls. I fully support Article 11. As I said, I live in Bellows Falls Village, and people who live in the town of Rockingham are part of my community. Being part of a community means being responsible to and for everyone who lives in it, from infants to elders. That's why, like Ms. Brace said, even though I have no children, I am happy to pay school taxes. My safety depends on the safety of others. And while I would love to see the select board and town departments work with the Wyndham Regional Commission or other entities to implement traffic calming plans, right now we have the obligation to do something to help our neighbors. And the Wyndham County Sheriff's Department is the tool we can use. $6,000 equals something like $2 per taxpayer for the entire year. It's slightly more than we spend on fireworks. Please join me in voting in favor of this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie?
What Mr. McCullough brought up about.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, Charlie Jarris. What Mr. McCullough brought up about the town and the village thinking about bringing together a full police department for all of Rockingham. I think it is something that the town and the village continue to think about. Unfortunately, crime is on the increase in all aspects in one of the things, I had a catalytic converter, cut off my RV. And I called the state police, and that gentleman over there said about the state police only dealing with really serious crimes. So I think the town of Rockingham should continue to have a real serious talk about having a police force for all of Rockingham. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Amy Howlett from the Village of Saxons River. We do have a contract with the Sheriff's Department. Historically, we are a separate municipality, and I think it's history that gives us that contract. This seems like a reasonable proposal to explore what is happening in rural Rockingham. And although I live in the Village of Saxons River, I am in rural Rockingham pretty much every day. If I drive to Springfield or to Grafton or anywhere else, I'm in rural Rockingham. And as a resident who avails herself of the Windham County Sheriff's Department, I'm grateful for the job they do, mostly with speeders.
Cass, right behind you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Copley. I'm also a Lower Bartonsville resident, and we have spent many hours at meetings trying to lobby for some sort of police enforcement. We have tried, this was the best option that was afforded us and was in front of you tonight for the vote. And it is the safety of our residents, children, families. There's a lot of drugs, I know it's been mentioned, thank you. And those drugs will come from Springfield through here, and we are the first stop on that road. So we're seeing hypodermic needles and drug deals in the afternoon, they wave at us. And so please consider the less than $2 a year that it would cost for us to have some protection in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
Thank you. The legislature has brought this issue of town policing up many times and has never gone through. The future of policing for our communities is for us to be more proactive about doing so. I agree with Mr. McAuliffe concerning the tax base of $6,000 to the village trustees or village residents who are already paying for $1 million plus police department. However, I didn't see the town of Rockingham coming to the village of Bellows Falls, although apparently the town of Westminster has come to us wanting to use policing services from the village of Bellows Falls. That might have been a more adequate way to go, and the conversations really should be had. I mean, real conversations about this, because we spend a lot to cover 3/5 of the town of Rockingham, because Bellows Falls is like 3,200 people, and there are a couple 2,000 or so out there. It doesn't have to take merger. It has to take serious conversations between the trustees and the select board to provide better policing for every community. Therefore, Saxons River wouldn't need to have a contract, and we wouldn't need another contract, a minuscule one, to cover an area like Bartsville. So I think that's what the future of our policing here in our community is, and we need to work towards that so everyone receives proper policing. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir. Cass, all the way back here in the corner.
I mean, I can be pretty loud. My question was, oh, sorry, my name is Simon. I live here in Bellows Falls.
Use the microphone, we can't hear you.
All right. Man, being quiet, not something I hear a lot.
Hopefully this helps. Okay.
Yes.
So my question was, if we're appropriating $6,000 for sheriff, I mean, obviously people who need help need the help, but specifically around the issue of drugs, policing isn't always going to solve that problem. So I'm wondering, have you investigated other resources that might actually get the job done?
Peter, would you, or somebody from the board?
We, yeah, we have, as Charlie Jarris mentioned, we have talked to the state police, we have the drug task force out there. We got the same response unless you actually are willing to go to court if they pick somebody up and willing to testify that that's what happens, you probably will get very little response.
What about social services?
We have, I think there's 10 or 12 of these services that you just voted $93,000 for. Some of them do entertain the drug issue. So the question should probably be posed to them.
Peter. And also, we did this year vote the money that came to the town of Rockingham from the opioid settlement. We did distribute to an organization here working on drug issues. And I think there's another settlement coming forward too, and that will also likely go in that direction. So there are some funds from the town going into the social services who are dealing with helping people who are addicted to drugs.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Dave Langford, rural Rockingham. I know Susan mentioned that what we actually get would be negotiated, but could you or the sheriff's representative kind of scope out what $6,000 will buy us in terms of how much patrolling, how much call response, that sort of thing?
So David, I think Sue said that it's going to cost $62 an hour. So basically, you're going to get.
But does that include response to calls for assistance? Or is that only patrolling?
I think we'll go to the Wyndham County representative.
Thank you. I'm not a voter of Rockingham, so do you need to vote?
No, you're all set.
Great. Mark Anderson, Wyndham County Sheriff. Thank you for having me here tonight. To answer your question, it could, but that's also up to decision by the board and what the town tells the board to negotiate the contract. We've had contracts ranging from full 24/7 police coverage, 911 response, right down to we want to target these narrow issues and only target those narrow issues. I'm here to support rural communities. And we can talk about rural Rockingham, it's rural Wyndham County. Every community is having these discussions. And at the end of the day, there's an initiative that I'm working on right now to improve rural policing. The town of Rockingham's been invited to that initiative. This isn't a next year conversation, this is over time. So this is very much an issue people are dealing with. What you choose to do today is up to you by all means. My office is here to support the town of Rockingham and the villages within it in whatever way makes sense.
Any other questions or comments? Ask right behind you here.
Thank you. My name is Charles Wright. I'm actually a new resident of Rockingham. Coming from out of state where we basically, if we needed to, we picked up the phone and dialed 911 and somebody would respond. I guess my question is, I live not in one of the villages. I guess I'm rural Rockingham. If I pick up the phone and dial 911, what happens?
No answer.
I think you're rolling the dice.
Well, I can tell you personally, if your house is on fire, you won't have to wait long. That's the good news.
So to answer that, I think a lot would depend upon what you're calling for. Whether you're going to get response from the state police or not.
Is there a 911 call center, I guess?
Yes, yes.
Someone will answer?
Yes. Any other questions or comments?
Barbara Turnus, Village Falls. I wanted to ask the sheriff the success rate when money is spent on this project or other towns are spending, how successful have the sheriff's deputies and activities been in decreasing drug activity and decreasing that kind of thing, which is what is being looked at, and will the $6,000 do that job?
Certainly.
I don't have an exact number. We don't have a formula we can run to say what success is or isn't. To that end, when we talk about most public safety, public welfare issues, I usually go to a model. It's a three-prong model. It's based on enforcement, it's based on education, it's based on engineering. So, gentleman from Bells Falls mentioned, are there social services? That's part of education, that's part of engineering. We're trying to come up with other ways. Do I think $6,000?
Okay, I'll talk loud. Does that work?
Died.
I might be back.
I'm going this way. So, do I think $6,000 is going to be an effective intervention to solve the drug problem? No. I mean, that's like asking me to go blow up a balloon in the sky with my dart gun. It's just not gonna happen. Is this a way for you to test the services my office can provide and see if it's a viable fit? Absolutely. Is it an opportunity for you to say that, you know what, maybe we want to explore the idea of working with the Bellows Falls Police Department? Absolutely. I enter one-year contracts all the time, and I'm not upset if you decide to go a different way. That's part of what we do. And part of my model is to deliver you a excellent service. It keeps you coming back, because if you're not happy, well, by the way, you're voters of my job. So my goal is to serve you, support you, and come up with a better way to deliver the services. But I'm not here to say we're going to solve the drug problem based on that funding. It's not a realistic expectation on the first year.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Moderator,
Peter?
I query the sheriff's department in regards to Mr. Jarrett's catalytic converter. Had he made the call to you, would you probably done the same thing the state police said?
We would have shown up to say, this is happening. There are a lot of initiatives to combat theft of catalytic converters. The difficulty that we have is that it's kind of like spam email. Your spam filter gets better, then the spammers get better, and it's certainly a back and forth game. So we would have collected information. We did, not in the too distant past, we did arrest one person who was trafficking numerous catalytic converters. We're targeting the precious metal dealers who are receiving them. We're working with the Federal Bureau of Investigation to try and go at this, because this isn't just a rural Windham County issue. This is a national issue where they're then getting millions of dollars on a boat to ship somewhere else. So this is a truly massive problem that we even don't have the resources in the state of Vermont.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to, of course, we do have problems in many of our areas of drug dealing. That's not the only reason we are asking for this. We are concerned about the safety of people walking on our roads because there are speeders going by 50, 60 miles an hour in a 25-mile zone. And we have narrow roads, and it's not just Bartonsville, it is Cambridgeport Road, it is Pleasant Valley Road, it is all the rural roads in town that we are hoping that with this start of some funding, people who are habitually speeding will know there's a chance there will be a Windham County Sheriff's Department in town that maybe they get stopped once or twice, it might help. And again, it's a test. It really is a test to see what we can do in the future.
Nancy?
Nancy McCall of Bells Falls. Query to you, did you go to the Bells Falls Police Department?
We did in the past.
been shut down.
Yeah.
This time around, I mean, if you want fast response, you've got a few miles away, whereas you got the Wyndham County Sheriff is out in Newton. Or maybe they're out on patrolling and stuff, but
To answer your question, we did not query the Bellas Falls Police Department this time around because the only request we got was from Lower Rockingham residents. The historical reason was, if you can remember 15, maybe 20 years ago, when it was brought up before, and it's been voted down. Keep telling people this every time we talk about this, it's been voted down 3 or 4 different times. Because Rockingham does not want the Bellas Falls Police Department in their area. That's what's down, that's the answer we've got in the past.
right, I was village president 7, 8 years ago, and the merger went down, but we have a new police chief. Personnel has changed, times have changed. Anyway,
Cass, back here, please.
Turn it on.
Thank you. My name is Kate Swinstead and I'm on Meeting House Road. I'm a relatively new Rockinghammer as well. I moved all the way down from Chester. Right? So 17 years in Chester. I grew up just outside of Chester, so lifetime Vermonter. I had my first theft living here in Rockingham. Love the town, wonderful folks. It does seem like there is a larger conversation to be had, and I want to acknowledge the voices who are talking about other support services for folks who may need them or other opportunities. Hearing a lot of voices talking about, well, we've talked about this in the past or this or that. It sounds like it could be a time to have a new conversation, but this sounds like a really good place to start, and you can start here tonight. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Article 11, motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate $6,000 to fund a contract with Wyndham County Sheriffs for the purpose of providing public safety services in the town of Rockingham with $6,000 to be raised by taxes. All those in favor would say aye. Aye. Those opposed would say no. No. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 11 has now passed. We'll move on to Article 12. Article 12, shall the voters of the town of Rockingham vote by Australian ballot all expenditures of public funds beginning in the 2024 town meeting. Peter.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote by Australian ballot all expenditures of public funds beginning in the 2024 town meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote by Australian ballot all expenditures of public funds beginning in the 2024 town meeting. Is there any discussion? Dennis.
Dennis Hardy, resident here. I'm opposed to this article because this is a democratic primary bedrock meeting here. And we had a great discussion on the budget tonight. Even some of the people that I know are opposed are in favor of this article, got up and answered. Peter did a great job explaining it. We wouldn't get that next year. There'd be no discussion and probably be nobody here. So I just in favor of, this is democracy in action. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Charles Wright again. Again, newbie here. Can somebody explain what an Australian ballot is?
That would be paper ballot voting tomorrow at the Masonic Temple is Australian ballot. Any other questions or comments? Cast right over here.
Steve Crofter. I actually
had thought a lot about the last article. And came here tonight with the intention of voting against spending the $6,000. Because I thought, as sorry as I felt for people who have speeders coming by their house, I thought it might not be an effective use of the money. And I listened to the comments here and changed my mind. That's the kind of thing that would never happen if we were only voting on that by the Australian ballot. So I would urge you to defeat this.
Anything else? Right behind you, Cass, please.
Hi, Wayne Blanchard. In the past, I would have agreed with the comments we just heard. But I think what changed my mind is when we were discussed quite a few years ago now about switching the school district budget to Australian ballot. I ran into a young couple who had young kids at home. They said they were all in favor of coming to town meeting, but you know, they weren't going to be able to make it. The other thing I would point out is that the vote that we had last year, it was probably maybe 150, and maybe that's what we have in the room right now. So my guess is the people that like coming and like are able to come to town meeting are here. But what about the other 350 people who voted in favor of having an Australian ballot? So I think I've changed my mind about, granted the discussion here is excellent. Nice to hear, you know, the board talk about what the plans are and so forth. I think that can still happen. There won't be as much of a discussion because not so much is at stake, I guess, right at this meeting. But I think we're leaving, in terms of democracy, I think we're leaving out a lot of people in town who either choose not to come to this meeting or are just unable, for whatever reason, to come here. If it's an Australian ballot, I assume they could also do you know, request a ballot. And not have to come, you know, if they're unable to come in person. That's my thoughts.
Any other questions or comments? The door.
I'm Janet Gillette from Saxon's River. I strongly believe that this should turn into Australian ballot because it opens the vote to everybody. There are many reasons why people are not here tonight. Some people are getting off work. Some people have kids and don't have childcare. Some people are elderly and can't make it. But all of those people can request an absentee ballot and vote. But I don't see any reason why you couldn't have the discussion on Monday nights and then have the vote on Tuesday when everybody could vote. My thoughts.
Any other questions, comments?
I'm still in the I'm vehemently voting against this measure, and I encourage my neighbors to do so also. We have something that most places in this country and in this world don't have. We have the ability to come in this room and ask questions about the way that our tax expenditures are used. You can't do that on an Australian ballot. And I've heard the argument, oh, well, people can just come to the select board meetings and talk about it. Well, so can all the people who haven't come to town meeting tonight. But I still want the ability to come to this meeting and hear the questions that you have that I haven't thought of, and any questions I might have that you haven't thought of, and we can have a debate. That's what town meeting is for. So please join me in voting this down. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, and then we'll come back.
I'm Barbara Jones, Bellows Falls. Other towns have a meeting on Saturday, our neighboring town of Westminster. Other towns provide childcare. Other towns have potlucks. Other towns do it differently. It doesn't have to be only this way or that way. Laurel Green. I am also standing not in favor of this particular article. I would like to see it voted down. Partly for some of the reasons that were just stated. There's many ways to do a town meeting. It doesn't have to be like this. I think it's interesting to notice that the 80 chairs were set out, a bunch more got set out later, and we still have people standing. There is some demand for seeing our neighbors, figuring out who the characters are in town, being changed, having our hearts and minds changed by hearing our neighbors speak up on issues. My concern is more not about this year or next year, but maybe a couple of years down the road as climate change hits us even harder and harder and harder. We're going to need to be able to pull together as a community. And this is a training ground for us to listen to each other and to build a resilient community. I think we need this, and it's going to become a matter of life and death within a few, unfortunately, short years. It looks bad for the future. And we're in a lucky place in the US, but it's hitting everywhere. There's no place that's going to be missed by climate change. And because of that, I think town meeting is essential.
Peter. Just a point of information, even if you do vote or want to vote for a spring ballot, you will still have the meeting that we're having here tonight. The problem you don't have is you cannot change anything. At this meeting, we could reduce any of these articles we want to tonight to change the tax rate. String ballot voted, if you go a string ballot, you're gonna vote either up or down. That means it comes back to the board again, we go through another meeting, and we play the game again. I can remember one year the school board did that for 3 times before people finally got frustrated and said, the hell with it, just pass the darn thing and get rid of it. So, that's what the thing is. I'm not in favor of the string ballot voting. I'd rather this situation here where we can, talk about things and have the opportunity to reduce an article if we want to do it. But you can't direct it to the select board where to take the money out. You can just say a general cut $200,000 out of the budget, and we have to struggle to find out where we're gonna do it. But it takes the onus off of you, but it puts it on us, so. Joel.
Joel Love, Saxton's River. I kind of feel sorry for you, Peter, having to go back 3 or 4 times to do that. It's tough having to rework things, do a lot of business. One of the nice things about having the internet and Zoom is that people have the ability to hear and see the conversations that are going on. And having this kind of information be broadcast to everyone in the community gives them an opportunity when they can't be here. Because I bet there's a lot of people who couldn't navigate and want to sit in a confined space like this. Otherwise, you might see maybe 2 or 3 times as many. And at times, when things were a little bit more anxious at some of the meetings, there were a couple hundred people at the meetings. But in general, people like the ability to vote. And a democracy enables people to do that. A democracy doesn't dictate that you have to be in the same room and voting. Because an Australian ballot gives you the capability of voting for that and voting for what we want to vote for. And then if it doesn't go, you go back and you get something together and put it together that people will vote for. So I think this is the kind of thing that we truly do need, and it's a long time coming. So we really appreciate anybody supporting this because it is what we need. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Kathy?
Yeah, hi, Gary Fox, Bellows Falls resident, and one of the things around accessibility that the bus companies do when they have public hearings, they send buses around to pick people up, and just like there were other comments about making accommodations, it would be great to have a few hundred people in the theater and have the kids down here with childcare and we have a local bus company. That practice that Laurel was talking about the bus company knowing where the elders live that are not mobile and being able to transport them and bring them to a meeting, saying they would be brought to an emergency operations center if there was, emergency evacuations. So there are ways to address more participation. Yeah, so.
Sue,
I just have a question that I didn't catch the story on NPR the other day, but there was a discussion about the fact that this is a town meeting that a lot of other towns are facing this problem. And we're participating in Zoom meetings, but you can't at town meeting. Is there any efforts going on at the state? I'm looking at Wendy because I see her. Are there any efforts going on at the state level about in the future expanding the ability for Zoom voting or that type of voting at a meeting like this for town meeting?
Right, I can't answer that, I'm sorry, I'm not on the committee, I'm not aware, I'm sorry, I can let you know later, but that won't work for tonight.
Okay.
Ellen. Just a second, please.
Ellen Howard, Rockingham. I just want to point out that we're going to be voting tomorrow by Australian ballot for a school budget. That's double what we're voting here tonight. If we can do the school budget that way, and nobody complains about that, I think we could do this budget by Australian ballot too. I mean, school budget's been done for many years, and it's double what we're voting here. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Marianne Bennett, and I'm in Rockingham, and I love town meeting. We've lived here for over 40 years and we come every year. And I would miss the discussions. But we're kind of talking about, well, wouldn't it be great if 200 people were here? We have, what, 3,000, 4,000 people in town? Those 5,000, I'm sure they're not all voting age, but if we're happy with 200 people having a say on what our money is being spent on, I think we should be happy if we had more like 4,000 or 5,000 voting for it. Thank you.
Hi, Catherine Teston, Saxon's River. I'm a Irish resident here as well, and I have to say that I knew about Vermont's town meeting culture even before I moved here, and it has always struck me as something incredibly unique and valuable in a time when there are fewer and fewer reasons to meet in person. I'm curious though, just about, I guess, a process, what the process would be for changing the meeting in some way to make it more accessible. So I guess I'm talking about the culture of the meeting itself. And would that be a select board question? Is this a motion that we can put now instead of voting up or down just on Australia ballot or not? If we are invested in the culture, what does it look like to actually talk about changing the meeting to be more accessible, to have more of the kind of community experience that people are losing?
Peter, I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah, we could discuss having this on another day. I know Westminster down here, that neighborhood town, they have it on a Saturday and they do the whole explain, then they vote on Tuesday like we're gonna do tomorrow. I assume that's all done by Australian ballot. Some of the stuff I think they do vote in person at the meeting on the Saturday. So there are, as the lady said, there are different ways of doing this. So could we take your suggestions of what you'd like to see, but it would be not under this item, but under other business. You can bring it up and make a suggestion that we investigate and look at that.
Any other questions or comments?
Question. Just a question.
Bonnie.
Would it be appropriate to amend this in some way and say we vote that the select board consider changing the day of town meeting and allocating funds for transportation and childcare? Could we make an amendment here tonight?
I think what probably the best way would be, if that is your thought, would be to vote this article down. And then under other business, which you could say, hey, you cannot appropriate any money to be spent, though. That's the only thing under other business.
Could we just say, the voters request that the select board consider appropriating funds next year? Could we say something like that? Is that legal?
I think it's legal, but the real question in my eyes is whether we vote by Australian ballot or we don't vote by Australian ballot. And that's what Article 12 really entails.
Right, but it's a kind of a tough either or, very divided feelings, and it seems like the issue is accessibility. And I feel strongly that this is a very important tradition, and I hate to see it go by the wayside. I understand the convenience of Australian ballot and zooming everything, but I don't think we should give this up. I just don't think we should give it up right now.
And Bonnie, it'd be my understanding that you would not give this up. What you will give up is the ability to change any one of the money articles, either to add money or
Right.
subtract money from it. But you're still going to have discussion around every article that is going to appear on an Australian ballot.
Right, but people probably won't watch if their vote doesn't matter that evening. That's just a observation there. Okay, thank you.
Joel, we'll go back to you one more time.
Thank you, and I apologize for talking twice. And I appreciate the fact that it's extra work, I really do, and it is a lot of extra work to put in if it gets voted down. But think about the fact of the number of years you've seen 50 people at these meetings, and they voted on the entire town's budget because you couldn't make it, or something came up, or you had an illness in the family, or your kids had to be someplace else. And the ability to listen to it, to watch what we can do now on Zoom, and then vote on it the next day is absolutely a godsend. And what a phenomenal opportunity to expand the number of people who can be included and involved in it, even if it is remotely. So I appreciate the support on this because I know a lot of people at Rockingham would also like that support. Thank you.
Priscilla.
Priscilla Lambert, Rockingham, rural Rockingham. I would like to comment on this. The school budget was voted down twice, yes. Every time we have to put it back on an Australian ballot, it costs more money. It's not just the fact that you're voting one day. You have a chance here at this meeting to either increase it, decrease it, or say you like it. But if you put it on an Australian ballot and you vote it down and it has to come back again for another vote, that's a whole another set of costs for everybody that's involved, because you now have to start all over. You have to have the people deciding on other items to put out there, but you also have to have the cost of the paper ballots and everything else that's going to be put out there for the second time and the third time, as you pointed out, for one of our school budgets. Thanks. So I would vote against it.
So I'd like to disagree with,
Introduce yourself.
oh, I'm
again,
sorry,
please.
Amy Howlett, Saxon's River. I'd like to disagree with one of the words that Mr. Love used. I do understand the urge on many of your, in many of your minds to involve more people, but I don't think it's involvement. I think what we have here tonight is involvement. Thinking, discussing, being serious about the matters of our town. And I think honestly, what it takes to turn out a big population is a serious question. Like, should we extend policing and how should we pay for it? I mean, you can do a yes or no vote by Australian ballot, but it's completely different from the texture of the conversation tonight. So I'll be voting for continuing town meeting, the same town meeting we've had forever.
Any other questions or comments? Right over here.
Yes, Steve Crawford. I really do feel for people that can't make it because of childcare issues or not being able to get out at night, but I look at the Zoom screen up there, and there's one reporter, and there's our senator who does not live in town. There's nobody that showed up as an interesting citizen. We couldn't make the meeting tonight, but wanted to know what was going on. And I'm sorry that that's the state of things, but that's what I see.
All the way back to Jamie, please.
Yeah, Jamie Bear. So I've been a resident here for 32 years. I'm going on 33, and a lot of my career took me out of the town and the village where I wasn't afforded to be at this meeting. But whenever I was home, able to attend either a select board meeting, village, or a very important town meeting, I was here because it's part of your civic duty and it's part of our democracy that allows us to meet, have a civil conversation. Yes, heated at times when there's disagreements, but it's a right that we cannot afford to lose. So I do not agree with this.
Any other comments, questions? In the doorway, please.
Chairman Shalom, sorry for the second time from Second Server. Clarification, my understanding is the vote is whether or not you have Australian ballot on Tuesday. Nowhere in here does it say that you will not have town meeting or that you will not show up on Monday night and have a very rich discussion. And then you could go home and think about it before you spend millions of dollars rather than voting on the spot, which I don't even purchase a refrigerator without going home and thinking about it. So I would appreciate it if we did put it on the Australian ballot. We would keep the discussion, we would keep the town meeting, but you simply would vote the next day.
Any other questions or comments? Why don't we go to Bonnie, then we'll go to Wayne and then Wendy.
Yeah. This is just real quick. I would just like to remind everybody, Zoom may not be around forever, okay? It's great. I mean, I love it. I've got 2 select board meetings and 3, sometimes 4 Wyndham regional meetings to go to every month. I love the Zoom. But we're about to make a vote here that's gonna last. And there may not always be this. Technology changes, it's relying upon electricity, it's relying upon airwaves and fiber optics and a lot of things that may not always be available or be operating in the way that we're accustomed to now. Thank you.
Wayne, please.
Really just a point of information. I'm curious, it strikes me that the people who want to come to town meeting are here tonight. And is there no way to hold an Australian ballot to decide this decision, to make this decision? Because like I said, as I point out, the vote was pretty overwhelming in favor of having an Australian ballot last year. So I don't understand if you made a decision here to hold an Australian ballot to just make a decision about whether to continue this town meeting this way.
The vote tonight will be whether you will either vote in person like we're doing tonight, or you vote on Australian ballot. You
I
cannot do,
understand that.
you can do either one, you can't do both. That does not negate the fact that we can have town meeting like we're having it today. Explain that once, that you're gonna have this meeting, and then as she had said out there, Jan said, you're gonna vote the next day on it. My problem with that is, and Bonnie alluded to a part of things, what about these people that don't have computers? How do they get the information? A lot of these people go to Australian ballot and vote no, just to vote no, because they don't like it. They don't go with the knowledge of what's been discussed here tonight. They go down there, most of them will vote no. I'll bet you 10%, I'll bet 20, 30, 40% tomorrow will vote no on the school budget without even having gone to the school board. In fact, I just got my school budget booked tonight, walking in the back door. They didn't tell anybody on the internet where they were posted. You had to go to Westminster down there and pick up your book. To me, that's not proper. So, let's leave it as what it is. I'm voting on nothing tomorrow.
Or Wendy, I guess we'll go to you, Chris.
Hello again, everybody. I'm still Wendy. I dispute Ms. Mitchell-Love's assertion that those of us who are here tonight are only looking at this budget and reviewing it tonight to prepare for a vote tomorrow, potentially. This, have you all seen this? I got it for about a week. You know where I got it? From the library. And you can do that too. We're not all here just deciding tonight like we would a refrigerator. When I don't really like that characterization. Anyway, with that, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to call the question.
So the question has been called. It's a non-debatable motion. Takes 2/3 of the people sitting here to move the question. So all in favor of moving the question?
You need a second.
So motion has been made and seconded that we cease debate. 2/3 of the majority of people here. All those in favor of stopping debate would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say no.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and debate has stopped. We'll move on to Article 12. Motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote by Australian ballot all expenditures of public funds beginning in the 2024 town meeting. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no.
No.
I'm confused on who has won this, so we will take out your voting card, please. I need some JPs, please.
Okay.
I need 2 over there to count, please. I'm gonna go to a division of the house. So Denny, you're gonna count over here with Pat. Okay, so everybody understands what you're voting on right now.
Hold your cards up.
Shall the voters, or the motion's been made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote by Australian ballot all expenditures of public funds beginning in the 2024 town meeting. So if you're in favor of going to Australian ballot, please raise your card now. And come in from the doorway, so there isn't any confusion, or we won't count you.
Have to be on one side of the phone.
One side or the other, which side are you
Can't be in
on,
the
George?
doorway.
Can't be in the
No,
doorway.
left or right.
No, you need to be further in, so we
Just
know
trying to
who's
get a count.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Four.
This is for Australian ballot, that is correct.
No, wait a minute. 1, 2,
All the
3,
people over
4,
here holding up their ballots, you're voting in favor.
You don't have a
of
ballot.
Australian
Where's your
ballot.
ballot?
Just make this clear. Doesn't matter which side,
Oh, you
hold them
got
up
it.
nice and
I'm
high.
sorry. You're against white.
I got it.
Keep them up, please, everybody, for right now.
You're right.
On this side.
Yeah, you're done, Remy. No, you're good.
Mr. Moderator, we have 25 on this side in favor. All those that would be opposed to this motion would now raise their card.
Oh, yeah. Somebody.
I'm not sure.
Ms. Moderator, could clarify, what are the voting on? I thought I heard you say voting in favor again.
No, opposed to this.
Opposed.
Thank you.
Who's counting them?
Just count, Kat.
I don't.
Count 'em back.
Check with everybody.
This table counts on this side, I'm assuming.
Okay.
Pat, did you pass the clipboard?
Don't count,
We're
yes, you
counting
did.
the board.
Oh, I did.
Okay, let me try again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mr. Moderator, I have 30.
Including the vote? Would you get that? 37?
Oh, I can count.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
30. Okay, everybody put your hands down. So Article 12 has been defeated. In favor were 39 votes, opposed were 69 votes. So the article is completed. We'll move on to Article 13, which is to transact any other business deemed proper when not involving the expenditure of town funds or any other business acted upon in the preceding articles. And before we go anywhere or too far, we do have some of our guests tonight. We have Representative Leslie Goldman over in the corner. We have Senator Wendy Harrison. On back, we have Senator Nader Haskins. Hashim, sorry. Anybody, any?
Yeah, Michelle was here. She just left.
Okay, and Michelle, our other rep, was here, so I just want to let you know, so if you have something you'd like to talk to him about after the meeting or whatever, maybe you can hook up out in the hallway. Is there anything else to come before under other business? Bonnie?
So now for other business, I'd like, not on. I'd like to propose perhaps a resolution that the select board be tasked with looking into the possibilities of increasing accessibility, perhaps changing the date and time of the town meeting, providing childcare and arranging transportation and anything else that would add to making town meeting accessible and promote it heavily. I think a lot of people aren't aware of it or they forget about it. I think it's lamentable that a small handful of people will make major decisions And I think it's up to us, all of us, and particularly your elected officials, to do everything to make sure everyone feels welcome and is able to participate in our democracy. Thank you.
Peter.
Just a point of information, some of you are already aware, the town did receive $440,000 worth of ARPA funds. Just so you know what we are attempting to spend it on. 115,000 was set aside for replacement chassis for a Rockingham fire truck. When we got the estimate back, the 115,000 was for parts and $400,000 for labor. A new truck costs 500,000. So guess we'll just put the 115 into a reserve fund and move forward from there, depending on how our fire equipment study.
You're not on.
It's on, it's not. We also appropriated $75,000 for the first phase, of the town hall roof project. We all know that this roof leaks. If you look around, you can, in some areas of this town, you'll see water stains and paint peeling off of the ceilings. 150,000 is also going towards the match that we have to come up with for the Rockingham Meeting House to get that other half grant. And 100,000 is appropriate or attempted to be appropriated for the train station phase 1 repairs.
Yes. Cass, you want to take? Yep.
Steve Crawford. I'd like to second Bonnie's motion, if it was a motion.
Resolution?
Well,
I think it's the select board. So I'm assuming that they've heard us loud and clear.
I would like to make a motion that the, I guess the select board is the right vehicle, but I'd like to make a motion that the select board study ways to make town meeting more accessible to more of our fellow citizens. And that we look to increasing attendance at town meeting in the future.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been made and seconded that the select board would be assigned the task of looking to increase attendance at town meeting. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. You have an assignment selected. Any other business? Denny?
Do we meet upstairs next year?
I'd like to make a motion. To that effect.
Yes.
Amy Allen, I'd just like to thank our new moderator and also the select board for a great year.
Thank you.
Anything else under other business? Yeah.
All I would like to say is I've come here for many years and I really, really miss Doug McPhee this year. He was the first one to ask questions. He always had something to say. And I don't know if he's in Florida or where he is at this point. I figured that's probably the case because the other McPhees are there too. But I really miss Doug McPhee. He always spent time, thank you, spent time and consideration on our budgets every year and had some very insightful, sometimes questions about it. And I missed him not going first on Article number 5. That was it.
Anything else? Motion been made, seconded that we adjourn. Prior to that, in about 7 to 10 minutes, we will start the school portion of this meeting. All those in favor of adjourning would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say no. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So what, until I close my mouth? I didn't say Jerry or
I'd like to call the 2023 Town of Rockingham School District meeting to order. Again, I'm Paul Bohosky. I will be the moderator for this school district meeting. I was appointed by the board to fill in for Ray Masuko, your elected school district moderator who's passed away. We'll operate under all of the same rules that we operated under for the town. I can either go through those. I talked a little bit with Priscilla, and her suggestion was almost everybody sat here already and has gone through the town and understand what the rules will be. And therefore, I'm going to move on. And at this time, I'd like to ask Priscilla Lambert, Chairman of the Board, to introduce her fellow board members and other officials from the Rockingham School District.
Okay, is this working?
Yep.
Okay, to my far right, at the beginning of the table is Jim McAuliffe. Next to him, Bill Morse. Next is Caitlin DeShane Desmond. I'm Priscilla Lambert. Next is Andy Haas, our superintendent. Next is Chris Kibbe. And then at the end of the table is Jim Vecina, our business manager. In the audience, we have our principals. If they would stand, please. Carrie Kennedy from Central, Laura Hazard from Saxton's River, and Henry Bailey from the middle school. Next to him, we also have our tech person at the central office, Ricky. He keeps us in our places. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Priscilla. I'd like to also highlight that tonight's meeting has a Zoom link, but also highlight that voting by Zoom is not permitted. At this time, the warning for tonight, tomorrow has an introductory paragraph which reads as follows. The legal voters of the Town of Rockingham School District are hereby notified and warned to meet in the theater at the Bellows Falls Hall Auditorium, Fall Cinema, with Zoom available in said town on Monday, March 6th, 2023 at 7 p.m. to act upon all matters which shall be voted upon by actualization, and not otherwise to be voted upon by Australian ballot, and then adjourn to the Masonic Temple in said town on or before Tuesday, March 7th, 2023 to vote by Australian ballot on the articles. Or article number 8, sorry. Now, the warning stated that we would be meeting upstairs in the theater. So when this came to light, or I realized that this morning when I was getting ready for this meeting, we contacted the Secretary of State just to make sure that where we were going to hold the meeting, we were going to be fine. And we sent an email to the Secretary of State, Kathleen Nehawk, town clerk, did for me, and basically said that we're down a couple of floors compared to where the warning says we're going to meet. The suggestion from Secretary of State, first of all, this is what his response was. First, if it's in the same physical address, not necessarily a huge issue, I would put a sign at the theater location saying to go to the lower theater. And so that was accomplished, just to let everybody know. So we did not run into a problem in the future or later on with any of these votes that are going to take place, because they're going to state that the warning that we were not at the location that the warning said we would be at. So I'm going to move to Article 1. Article 1 is to hear the reports of the Rockingham Town School District officers and to take action thereupon. Priscilla,
I move that we hear the report of the Rockingham Town School District officers and we approve their reports.
is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded
I'd like
to hear the reports of the Rockingham Town School District officers and to take action thereupon.
I'd like to speak to that. My full report is in the annual report and budget review booklet, along with other reports from the school. In summary, my report would be, we are thankful that our schools and our meeting tonight can be held in person. The school staff is working hard to overcome inconsistent educational opportunities and motivate students to their highest potential. Family and community support is helping students and the staff to meet the challenges that are faced in programming this year. We're bringing a realistic budget that will support students that is based on need. Health insurance needs, an emission of a tuition cost, increased salaries and inflation costs caused a moderate increase from last year, but continue to be lower than 2 years ago. More on the budget will be addressed under motions. Thank you for all the work done by principals Laura Hazard, Carrie Kennedy, and Henry Bailey, business manager Jim Vecina, superintendent Andy Haas, and board members Chris Kibbe, Jim McAuliffe, Bill Morse, and Caitlin Deshane Desmond. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on Article 1? Seeing none, Article 1, a motion has been made and seconded to hear the reports of the Rockingham Town School District officers and to take action, which would be to accept the reports. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 1 is passed. Moving on to Article 2, to see if the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in fiscal year 2025 in order to reduce taxes. Bill.
I move that the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2025 in order to reduce taxes.
Is there a second?
A second.
Motion has been made and seconded to see if the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2025 in order to reduce taxes.
I'd like to speak to that.
Priscilla.
Last year, we had a surplus in June 2022. This is where the money is coming from. Article 2 and the next articles 3 through 6 take a large portion of that surplus from last year and spread it over the next few years to allow your taxes to remain at a lower and consistent level. We've used $350,000 of that surplus toward this year so that your taxes will actually be lower this next year. The rest of it, a lot of it we put in these motions to be able to reduce it. And like I said, let your taxes be consistent. These sums are added to what you've approved at last year's town meeting. So there's even more that will offset your taxes in the years to come.
Is there any discussion or questions on Article 2? Seeing none, a motion has been made and seconded to see if the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2025 in order to reduce taxes. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and we have passed Article 2. We'll move on to Article 3 to see if the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2026 in order to reduce taxes. Jim?
Yes, I move that the voters approve the Rockingham Town School District to apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2026 in order to reduce taxes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made, seconded, that the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2026 in order to reduce taxes. Is there any discussion?
I have a proposal.
Yes, sir.
Don Taylor, Rockingham. Just a quick question. These excess funds, they kept someplace where we're gaining any interest on them or anything like that, or are they just sitting there?
They are earning interest, and in next year's budget, you'll see, and with the capital reserve funding, the interest that's earned for that year as well.
Any other questions?
I
Yes.
have a point of order question. We're voting on these tomorrow by Australian ballot. We're
No.
not voting tonight.
No.
We are voting tonight. The only article that you're voting on tomorrow is the overall main budget, Article 8.
A lot of people left here confused. They didn't get that. That's too bad.
I think it was unfortunate that somebody said when in the discussion of the Australian ballot versus in here, that you're gonna get to vote on it. You're gonna get to vote on the budget, which is bigger
No, I
than
know. It's just unfortunate that the people who left said, oh, well, there's nothing, there's no, anyway.
Okay.
I'm very unfortunate.
Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, Article 3, the motion has been made and seconded to see if the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2026 in order to reduce taxes. All those in favor of the motion would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and we have passed Article 3. Moving on to Article 4. Article 4, to see if the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year of 2027 in order to reduce taxes. Chris?
I move that the Rockingham Town School District apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2027 in order to reduce taxes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to see if the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $150 from the fiscal year 2020 balance fund to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2027 in order to reduce taxes. Is there any discussion?
150,000.
I'm sorry, 150,000. Thank you, Jake. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and we passed Article 4. Article 5, to see if the Rockingham School District will apply the sum of $300,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2028 in order to reduce taxes.
I move the Rockingham Town School District apply the sum of $300,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2028 in order to reduce taxes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded that the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $300,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in fiscal year 2028 in order to reduce taxes. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and we have passed Article number 5. Moving on to Article number 6 is to see if the Rockingham School District will apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2029 in order to reduce taxes. Priscilla.
I move that the Rockingham Town School District apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2029 in order to reduce taxes.
Is there a second?
Second, I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to see if the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $150,000 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to offset expenditures in the fiscal year 2029 in order to reduce taxes. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and we passed Article number 6. Moving on to Article number 7, to see if the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $929,935 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to create a reserve to be used for capital improvements at the Rockingham schools and to authorize the board to expend said funds. Chris?
I move that the Rockingham Town School District apply the sum of $929,935 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to create a reserve to be used for capital improvements at the Rockingham schools and authorize the board to expend such funds.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded that the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $929,935 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to create a reserve to be used for capital improvements at the Rockingham schools and to authorize the board to expend such or said funds. Is there any discussion? Chris?
So I'll speak to this a little bit. This is the, I guess, third year in a row that funds have been set aside for capital projects. And if this is approved, it will be a pretty healthy balance over $1.8 million. There are a number of projects going on now that are actually, we hope to fund with ESSER money and grant money. But there are also some other projects that in the future, we'll be working on some repairs like doors, some steps at the middle school. The middle school auditorium has been a subject of what kind of improvements to make. And I kind of hate to bring it up, but you know, we're in the process of having the schools tested for PCBs, which is starting to roll out, I guess, right? And we don't know anything. We don't know anything. We don't know whether there's any problem. But if we do have to do some remediation, that is going to fall back on the school districts, and it's not a bad time to have a nice piece of cash set aside in case we have to. So I think we'll kind of wait and see on that.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, just a second, if you would, till Mike gets to you.
Sure, Guy Payne from Sax River. I'm just questioning in terms of any kind of analysis that has been done on the ventilation systems in terms of CO2 levels. I know in Brattleboro, there have been significant problems. And I'm just wondering what kind of tests and analyses have been done on the ventilation systems.
Priscilla, would you like to direct that to somebody on the board, or you can answer that?
Well, I'm trying to figure which one's the best one to answer that. We've just done some touring of the buildings and looked at things, and there's a lot to do. Andy, would you like to try to build that one?
As far as testing for CO2 levels, we have not, to my knowledge, we have not done anything directly of that. We are just bringing on a gentleman to be a project manager to help oversee a lot of these ESSER projects that we're doing. So that'll be something we'll probably task him with, because HVAC systems are a huge investment that we're looking to use ESSER funds for. So that will be part of what we do.
Any other questions or comments? Any other questions or comments on Article 7? If not, the motion has been made and seconded that the Rockingham Town School District will apply the sum of $929,935 from the fiscal year 2022 fund balance to create a reserve to be used for capital improvements at the Rockingham schools, and to authorize the board to expend said funds. All those in favor of the motion would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 7 has passed. We'll move on to Article 8, which is a discussion only.
Yes.
Shall the voters of the Rockingham Town School District approve the school board to expend $10,246,454, which is the amount that the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. Again, this is by Australian ballot. It will be discussion only, and I'm looking, I believe, at Jigs to talk about this a little bit.
Okay. Do all of you have a copy of this year's annual report? A gentleman earlier showed me last year's report, so I don't know where that
few up here. So this is the cover.
But
Oh.
And it doesn't have the color pages in it, so I have a few up here.
Yeah, I'm told too that these were available at all the town offices, the town halls, on the website, at Leasi's and at the high school. I wanted to put that out there because somebody said that they weren't out where anyone could get them. So.
you have an old
That was out there, that was on that table, that is.
man. No, I don't.
Priscilla, I also put a couple of bookstores that I
Are there a
Had
few
them at
out
the
there?
bookstore too.
Pat?
Yeah, thank you, Pat.
Did you get one? Yeah, okay. It's important to look at this one because I'm going to refer to page 37 And 37, our report goes from 37 to 49. And, but 37 is the only one that's numbered. So I'll try not to make it too confusing. But if you'll turn the page from 37 to what I've deemed to be 38, you'll see the Rockingham operational budget. And it shows the actual expenditures for 2022, the adopted budget for 23, the proposed budget for 24, and the difference. And if you look at the bottom line, you'll see that the proposed budget for 2024 is $10,246,454. The column to the right shows that as an increase of $548,480. The next several pages provide a great deal of information and breakdown of these functional cost areas. But what I would like to do very briefly is to tell you what were the drivers of that roughly $550,000 increase. So if you would turn to the next page, which is the Rockingham operating budget. The first block, lines 1 through 15, is all of the various salaries. And you'll notice at the far right that budget is up $208,000. We negotiated a new contract this past year, and the wage increase that was negotiated was roughly 2.5%, with another percent in step increases. So that's one of the big items. The second item is the cost of health insurance. I think you heard it earlier at the select board meeting. If you look at line 17, you'll see that our health insurance costs alone were up $289,759. So those two items total $500,000. The third area was a function of mistakes that were made in the preparation of last year's budget. If you were to look on this same page, page 39, which I'm calling it, and you look at line 35, this is the tuition that we pay for preschool children that go to daycare centers. And you'll see that our budget is $150,000 for next year, and it's a $150,000 increase. Well, our budget was not zero this year. We are paying the tuition for the kids. And so that was an error. It was inadvertently left off of last year's budget. One other item that I wanted to highlight, in the middle school, we have a sports program. And the budget for our sports program in our 2024 budget is $61,000. That pays for coaching, referees, materials, and supplies. That was dropped off of last year's budget. So it shows as an increase of $61,000, which in fact is not the case, because we've had a robust sports program at the middle school this year, and we are paying in the order of $60,000 for that. So again, those three items total roughly $650,000 of an increase of $550,000. So anyway, so that's a look at the expenses. If you look through that budget, the next 6 pages have a breakdown of the expenses for each of our three schools, Central, Saxons River, and the middle school. So there's a lot of detail there. There's a lot of detail in here, thanks to our new business manager, Jim Zena, who has done a phenomenal job in helping us get our budgets straight. I can assure you, we won't be dropping items in the budget that we're proposing here tonight. If you turn to page 49, which is the last page in the Rockingham report, and it's got some yellow on it. This is kind of a tax sheet. You'll see at the very top, the $10,246,454 budget on line 1. We then have revenues on line 10. It's $1,734,000. Now that revenue account, there's two key items in that revenue. There's roughly $1 million in tuition that we collect primarily from Westminster, Athens, and Grafton for 7th and 8th graders that go to the middle school. The other $700,000 is prior surpluses. It's $350,000 from the 2021 surplus and another $350,000 from the 2022 surplus. So that 1.7 million of revenues brings our ed spending, which is a key number, line 14, to 8.5 million. You'll look just to the left, you'll see that our ed spending last year was $8,526,000. So we're actually down just a little bit. The next line, 16, which is more information than you need, is our ed spending per pupil. That is up from last year because the way the state calculates equalized pupils, our student, the number of students has dropped 24.5 students. So even though the numerator is down a little bit, the denominator is also down quite a bit. But still at $18,580,000, that still compares pretty well to the 2021 number, which was higher than that. Because of that, we can't give a tax rate because the state obviously funds education and we have to wait for the state yield to be published. But it would appear here that there'd be a little or no increase and perhaps a slight decrease in the school portion of the budget. So I'll stop at that and welcome any questions you might have. I'm sorry we didn't get this booklet sooner. It was distributed. I know we had copies at the school department. Where else did we have? We had copies at the town hall.
Lee size, the high school.
So any other questions, comments from the public?
Email? Is there any way to email those budgets out to all the parents in the schools that deserve to be on file?
I would think that would be a huge email.
Well, we get emails about other things, bulk emails.
Yeah, I don't think that's unnecessary. I mean, a big ask. I mean, I don't think it's something we had thought of.
Yeah, we get updates about
Yeah.
calendar updates, we get updates about everything else besides the budget. So just something to consider for next year.
Thank you.
Maybe even an email to tell them how to go to the website to find it.
Yeah,
in
that might be the
detail.
other way to go, Priscilla.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Again, this is article number 8. Will be voted on tomorrow by Australian ballot at the Masonic Temple. Any other questions, comments at all? If not, I'm going to move on to Article 9. Article 9. Shall the voters approve the annual compensation of school directors in the amount of board chair, $800, board members, $700, treasurer, $500. Bill,
I move that the voters approve an annual compensation to school directors in the amount of board chair, $800, board members, $700, and treasurer, $500.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded that the voters approve the annual compensation for school directors in the amount of board chair, $800, board members, $700, and treasurer, $500. Is there any discussion? Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed would say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And you accepted article number 9. Article number 10. The transaction, any other business to be brought before the town school district meeting. Is there any other business that needs to come before?
If no one else has one, I would encourage everyone to, I think Paul has done a tremendous job tonight in moderating for us. And due to an oversight, we do not have anybody on our ballot for school moderator for next year. Paul had his in for the town, but if you could also write Paul Ovahoski in for our town moderator, then we would not have to appoint him sometime during the year. So it would be really helpful.
Any other business? Yes, Betsy.
Hi, Betsy Thurston, Bells Falls. I just wondered if you could speak a little bit about the ESSER funds. I keep hearing that the school has gotten many millions of dollars, and I'm just curious what your plans are for them. If you could share some of them.
Yeah, so we've gotten in total, just over $20 million of the 3 ESSER funds. And ESSER 1 finished up in September of this year, and that was all about recovery and getting going. So it was a lot of just getting the schools clean at the time. That's what we thought, that's what the funds were, or that's what needed to happen for the virus. The second one was about getting kids back in school and getting schools back up and running. So we invested a lot in social emotional and trying to get our, making sure our kids had the right supports, because if they're not able to learn, then they're not going to learn. And so we've put a lot of funds in there with trying to put those supports in for students. And we're pivoting now into academics and to start addressing even more the loss of learning. We also ran summer programming and after school programming to address loss of learning with students. And now that we're getting into the depths of the ARP ESSER, which is the last one, a lot of it is about infrastructure. So we're looking at what started out as a $2 million proposed budget with an HVAC system at the high school. We're now getting numbers back closer to $4 million. We're looking at roof repairs at the middle school and at Central Elementary School and the high school potentially. We don't know just how with that HVAC system. That's why there's a bond out there for the high school, because ESSERs do have an end date, and we just don't know. We are also looking at some redesign of some safety features at some of our buildings so that we can add more cameras, but we can also increase security locks on doors. And then at a few of our schools, looking at actually redesigning entrances because they don't have line of sight, or they only have a single entrance, like Saxon's River Elementary School has a single door. So once someone is through that door, they're into our building, and so we're looking at adjusting that. So there's also on our website, there is a whole list of, we have many projects that have even been conceptually approved, more than even monies we have. And so now we're getting the bids back in of what we're looking to do. We're also looking at purchasing some buses because we haven't purchased buses in a few years and our fleet gets old. And so we are, that's a huge investment. The one bus alone is about $126,000 now, so.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and yeah, thank you. We're looking at revamping the whole kitchen at Central Elementary School. And that's a project we're thinking is gonna happen even this summer. So.
Any other business?
Just wondering about buses, are you looking at electric buses?
We did not look at electric buses only partially because of cost prohibitive. They were quite a lot more. We did do some preliminary looks last year as I came on. The other piece is there's not a lot of places if you've got to go on a field trip to plug a bus in. And so they have a limited span that they can actually drive. And so it was the recommendation from our transportation folks that we not look at the electric buses at this time, but to continue our investment in, propane, but also in diesel. So.
Anything else?
Scott, what is the status of the early childhood work that had been done earlier? Where would we going?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So as far as looking at building or designing a separate site that would just house Early Childhood Learning Center, we moved away from that and are looking at how we could use the space within our buildings to provide that. So this coming year, we're actually going to be piloting an expansion classroom at Central Elementary School. To expand it out, we're going to be offering, Jennifer's here, so I'm going to look to her here. If I get it wrong, you just throw something at me if I get it wrong here. But preschool is now going to be 5 days a week, full days, where it had been a reduced day. As I said, we're going to be offering a whole nother classroom to take on an additional 13, 14 kids, hopefully.
Yeah, 13.
Okay. We're still running a classroom at the Westminster School also, but that will be expanding as well to full day and 5 days a week. So in the past, we would have students come in, like our 3-year-olds would only come in 2 days a week, and our 4-year-olds would come in 3 days a week, or some combination of that. So now all the students will have access 5 days a week if that's what the family's looking to do. And the expansion is actually being covered a lot through Medicaid funds that we have that have been building up. So we get reimbursement from Medicaid, from special education services. And so we're able to expand without actually increasing any costs to taxpayers.
I think registration is starting to be open for that.
Yeah, it started this week.
And if parents are out there that are interested, what should they do?
They should.
Jennifer, just 1 minute. I apologize to you. Jennifer is actually under WNESU because it's a preschool program, but she is in our central school, so I should have introduced her at the beginning. So if you would give name and talk about that, please.
Hi. Hi, I'm Jennifer Keenan. I'm the early ed principal. Thanks for saying. We are expanding, just like Andy said, and registration just started this week. And the forms will all be on our website by midweek, with Kate. And I did a giant email blast today to all of the preschool people on my databases. So you didn't get a form and you have a preschool age child, you could send me an email, jennifer.keenan@wnsc.com.
And paper flyers went home Friday, correct?
Yep, paper flyers went home in every elementary backpack. And emails went out, and we're actually gonna do a snail mail mailing also. We're trying to cover as many bases as possible.
Anything else under other business?
I got something, Alex Stratton, Bellows Falls, parent, resident. Do you guys, as a board, plan on doing I don't know if you've done a survey in the past, but a survey specifically for the parents of the school to see if they feel like that the level of communication between the parents and the administration is up to par, whether or not they feel like, that the school that their child goes to, that they feel a part of that school. Because I'm gonna speak as a parent, I feel alienated from the school. And, you know, we pay a lot of money, and I just feel like the community as a whole, and I think there's a lot of division between teachers, administration, parents, and I think there needs to be a lot of building, a lot of healing that needs to go on. Because what happens is our kids suffer because there's a lot of infighting that's going on. And money gets wasted and parents don't feel like they're being heard. And I feel that way, and I might be the only one. So that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking the board, who's ever elected on the next board, to really sort of spend their mission on trying to bridge those gaps.
Thank you very much for your comments. Communication is one of our board goals, but it's, as far as surveys and that kind of thing, I'm gonna have to turn it over to our superintendent, because those would come out from the school.
I mean, real quickly, Alex, I think it's a great ask. We've been talking about how we can increase our engagement with families. Honestly, I'm sorry to hear that, because the feedback I've been hearing is the communication has been better. So but I just hadn't heard that. So, but we can definitely get better with ours. I think a survey, just having those same asks is something that we can easily get out there, because we can always, that feedback is what we need to get better. So.
Anything else?
Thank you, Andy.
Anything else under other business?
The only thing I would say is that, yes, we have 2 board positions open that are on the ballot tomorrow, and we have Bill Morris and Caitlin Desmond, Deshane Desmond, excuse me, running for those 2 positions unopposed. So please vote and vote for our budget.
Anything else? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made, seconded, that we would adjourn. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Trying to trick it.
Oh, it's not everybody does it. It's people frustrated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We will not.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
in her office there also. Not tomorrow, but on Wednesday. Oh, really? Good night, Don. Oh, okay. Yeah, take Priscilla.
It's all on the back. See what happens.
I spent 30 years in school.
Recording stop.